The great council chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of polished stone. Representatives from 200 species sat in perfect circles, their various forms creating a rainbow of alien anatomy. At the center, a single human stood in chains. Captain James Miller watched as the Speaker of Worlds raised 6 arms toward the crystal dome above. The trial had lasted 3 months. Earth's crimes were read in 17 different languages, each translation making humanity sound worse than the last. The species known as humans, the Speaker announced, are found guilty of excessive violence, rapid expansion, and disruption of galactic peace. The verdict is exile. The chamber erupted in clicks, whistles, and harmonious tones of agreement. Miller felt the weight of his species' future pressing down on his shoulders. Earth had been cut off from all galactic trade routes. No ships would dock at human stations. No technology would be shared. Humanity was alone. You have 1 cycle to remove all human presence from neutral space, the Speaker continued. Return to your small blue world and remain there. The galaxy has spoken. Miller straightened his back. The alien council expected him to beg, to plead for mercy like so many other species had done before. Instead, he smiled. We understand, he said simply. Earth accepts your decision. Confused murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Nexari representative leaned forward, with all 4 eyes focused on the human. This was not the reaction they had prepared for. However, Miller continued, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space, we also reject it. The chamber fell silent. In 3,000 years of galactic law, no species had ever refused a council verdict. It was impossible. Unthinkable. Explain yourself. Human, the Speaker demanded, tentacles writhing with agitation. Miller looked up at the dome, at the stars beyond. You assume we need your permission to exist in space. You assume we'll sit quietly on Earth like obedient children. You assume wrong. He turned slowly, addressing the entire assembly. Humanity didn't ask to join your council. We didn't ask for your trade routes or your technology. We found space on our own and will make our own way through it. The Korth delegation began a low, threatening growl. The humans were prey species, they insisted. Weak, short-lived, and dependent on others for survival. Without galactic support, they would collapse within years. Perhaps, Miller agreed, but we'll collapse trying. And that's more than most species can say. Security drones moved closer, their weapons charging. The message was clear. Submit or be destroyed. Miller raised his chained hands. I have a message for this council from Earth's united governments. From our military commanders, our scientists, our engineers, and our farmers. From 8 billion humans who refuse to be caged. The Speaker's translator crackled as it processed. Human emotions it had no reference for. Defiance mixed with joy, fear combined with excitement. The human was not breaking under pressure. He was embracing it. We thank you for making our choice simple, Miller said. For centuries, we wondered if we were alone in the universe. Now we know we're not alone, we're just better. Alarms began to sound throughout the station. Long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures approaching the council chambers. Impossible energy signatures. The humans had brought warships to the heart of galactic civilization. The Speaker rose to full height, towering above the assembly. You dare threaten this council? No, Miller replied. We're leaving. But we want you to remember this moment. Remember the day you told humanity to go home and wait to die. Remember it when our ships passed through your space without asking permission. Remember it when we build cities on worlds you thought were ours to give away. The first human vessel decloaked directly outside the council chamber's main viewport. Then another. Then dozens more. Ships that shouldn't exist, using technology the galaxy had never shared with Earth. Miller's smile widened as he watched the alien representatives scramble to understand what they were seeing. You exiled us. thinking we needed you to survive. You were wrong. We needed you to get in our way, so we could learn to go around you. The chains around his wrists dissolved as a transport beam locked onto his position. The human military had found their captain. The galaxy said, "Exile Earth." Miller announced as he began to fade from view. Humanity said, "Watch us anyway." As the last trace of the human vanished, the great council chamber erupted in chaos. Some species demanded immediate military action. Others called for negotiation. A few began planning to change sides. Outside the station, the human fleet turned toward the galactic edge and engaged their impossible drives. They were heading home to prepare for war. Not the kind of war the galaxy understood, a war for territory or resources, a war for the right to exist freely. Among the stars, Earth's orbital shipyards had never been busier. Captain Miller stood in the observation deck of Luna Station, watching thousands of vessels take shape in the construction bays below. The galaxy had given humanity one cycle to withdraw from neutral space. They had used that time differently than anyone expected. Status report. Miller called to the engineering teams scattered across the facility. Commander Lisa Park approached with a data tablet. All major projects are ahead of schedule. The colony ships will be ready in 2 weeks. The deep space explorers are already conducting test flights. And the military vessels, ... double quotes. She paused, looking out at the massive shapes emerging from the construction frames. Let's just say the Council won't recognize our technology anymore. Miller nodded. While the alien species had spent centuries perfecting what already worked, humanity had done what it always did best, found a completely different way to solve the problem. Instead of trying to match galactic technology, they had surpassed it. Dr. Robert Kane joined them at the viewport, his eyes bright with excitement. The quantum drives are performing beyond all projections. We can cross the galaxy in days rather than months. And the best part? We're completely undetectable to their sensor networks. Because we're not using their sensor technology, Park added with satisfaction. We developed everything from scratch. The past year had been a revelation for humanity. Cut off from galactic trade, they had been forced to innovate. Every human colony, every research station, every university had worked together toward a single goal, proving they didn't need anyone's permission to reach for the stars. On Mars, the terraforming projects had accelerated dramatically. What was once a 100-year plan had been compressed into a decade. The red planet was already showing patches of green as modified Earth plants took root in the changing atmosphere. The asteroid belt had become a massive mining operation. Resources that would have cost fortune in galactic credits were now flowing freely to Earth's industrial complexes. Humanity was becoming self-sufficient at an incredible pace. How many people have volunteered for the deep space missions? Miller asked. Kane consulted his records. 3 billion applications for 2 million positions. We've had to create a lottery system. Everyone wants to be part of the exploration fleets. This surprised no one. When faced with exile, humanity had not retreated. They had volunteered to push even further into the unknown. The galaxy's punishment had become their greatest opportunity. In the research labs beneath Luna's surface, teams worked around the clock on projects that would have been impossible under galactic law. Artificial intelligence systems that could think faster than any known organic brain. Weapons that could disable entire fleets without destroying them. And most importantly, terraforming technology that could make any planet habitable within years. The Council thinks we're hiding on Earth, licking our wounds, Miller observed. They have no idea we've been building an empire. Through the viewport, the newest addition to Earth's fleet caught his attention. The vessel was unlike anything in galactic record, sleek, organic-looking, as if it had grown rather than been built. Its hull shifted colors like living skin, and no visible weapons were apparent on its surface. What's the story with that one? He asked, pointing to the unusual ship. Park grinned. That's the prototype for our new exploration class. Completely biological hull that can repair itself and adapt to any environment. It can land on gas giants, dive into stars, or hide inside asteroid fields. The crew can survive for decades without resupply. And it's armed? Every molecule of the hull can become a weapon if needed. But more importantly, it can become anything else too. Hospital ship, colony transport, research station, even a small city if the situation calls for it. Miller felt a familiar surge of pride in his species. This was what humans did when their backs were against the wall. They didn't break. They transformed. Communications Officer David Ross approached with an urgent message. Captain, we're receiving signals from the outer system. The Centauri colony is reporting contact with an unknown species. Unknown to the galaxy? Miller asked. Unknown to everyone. They're not in any galactic database. The colonists say they've been isolated for thousands of years, waiting for someone to find them. Miller and Park exchanged glances. This was exactly what they had hoped for. While the galaxy looked inward, managing their existing territories and trade routes, humanity was pushing outward into regions no one else had bothered to explore. Prepare a first contact team, Miller ordered, and send word to Earth Command. Tell them we've found our first ally. As the orders were relayed throughout the station, Miller looked out at the growing fleet. The galaxy had tried to cage humanity, but they had only managed to set them free. Soon, they would discover just how far humans could fly. The edge of known space was a frontier no galactic species dared to cross. Ancient warnings spoke of dead zones, unstable stars, and creatures that existed between dimensions. For 3,000 years, the galaxy had marked these regions as forbidden. Humanity saw them as opportunities. Captain Elena Torres piloted her exploration vessel through what the galaxy called the Shadow Reaches. Her ship, constructed with Earth's new bioadaptive technology, moved silently through the cosmic graveyard of failed stars and shattered planets. Where other species saw danger, humans saw potential homes. Captain, called Navigation Officer Mark Chun from his station, were detecting massive structures ahead. They're not natural formations. Torres moved to the main viewer and felt her breath catch. Spread across a solar system were cities that defied every law of physics she knew. Crystalline spires twisted through space itself, connected by bridges of pure energy. And they were occupied. Life signs? She asked. Everywhere, Chun replied, his voice filled with wonder. The entire system is inhabited. Population readings are off the charts. The communication array came alive with signals in a language no human had ever heard. The patterns were mathematical, musical, and somehow familiar at the same time. They're trying to talk to us, reported Communications Officer Anna Davis. The signal is adapting to our responses. Whatever these beings are, they're incredibly sophisticated. A new voice joined the conversation, not through the ship's speakers, but directly in the minds of every crew member. It was gentle, curious, and tinged with excitement. Welcome, children of the distant star. We have watched your species with great interest. Torres stepped forward, addressing empty air, but knowing she would be heard. I'm Captain Elena Torres of Earth. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship. Earth, the voice repeated, tasting the word. Yes, we know of your world. We have observed your recent disagreement with the Galactic Council. Most entertaining. The view screen shimmered and resolved into the image of a being that seemed to be made of living starlight. Its form constantly shifted between states of matter, sometimes solid, sometimes pure energy, always beautiful. I am called Lumina by those who need names for things, the being said. My people are the ethereals. We have existed in this region for longer than your galaxy has been stable. Torres felt a chill of realization. "You're not part of the galactic community. We withdrew long ago," Lumina explained. "When the younger races began forming their councils and trade routes, we chose solitude. The galaxy became too ... regulated for our taste. The parallels were obvious. Like humanity, the ethereals had been pushed to the edges of known space. Unlike humanity, they had gone willingly." "Why did you leave?" Torres asked. Lumina's form pulsed with what might have been laughter. "The same reason your species was exiled. We refused to limit ourselves to what others thought was possible. We explored too far, learned too much, grew too quickly. The early councils feared us. Data streams began flowing into the ship's computers. Information about technologies that shouldn't exist, star maps showing regions the galaxy had never explored, and the locations of dozens of other independent species living beyond the reach of galactic law. You're not the only ones," Lumina continued. "There are hundreds of civilizations out here. Some were exiled, like yourselves. Others left by choice. All of us united by one thing: we refuse to accept limits imposed by others." Torres realized the significance of what she was learning. The galaxy that had exiled humanity wasn't the only civilization in the universe. It wasn't even the most advanced. It was just the most organized and conservative. "Would your people be interested in an alliance?" she asked. "We have been waiting for humanity to find us," Lumina replied. "Your species shows the same spark that drove us to the edges of space. You innovate instead of following. You explore instead of settling. You adapt instead of breaking." The ship's sensors detected more vessels approaching. Ships from dozens of different species, all bearing the same characteristics: technology that surpassed anything in galactic records, designs that prioritized exploration over conquest, and crews that radiated the same restless energy Torres recognized in her own people. "Welcome to the True Alliance," Lumina announced. "The federation of species that refuse to be contained." As Torres watched the impossible gathering of vessels around her ship, she understood that humanity's exile hadn't been a punishment. It had been a graduation. The galaxy had pushed them out of the children's area and into the realm of adults. "How many are there?" she asked. "Currently, 372 independent civilizations. With humanity, 373. Torres smiled as she imagined the look on the galactic councils, faces when they learned the truth. The galaxy they thought they controlled was just a small, conservative corner of a much larger universe. "When do we meet the others?" she asked. "Right now," Lumina said, as space itself began to fold around them. Asterisk, the meeting place defied every law of physics humanity thought they understood. A pocket dimension created by the combined will of dozens of advanced species. It existed between the spaces where normal reality couldn't quite decide what was possible. "Captain," Torres found herself standing in what appeared to be an impossible garden. Crystalline trees grew downward into a sky filled with liquid starlight, while gravity seemed to be more of a suggestion than a rule. Around her, representatives from the True Alliance materialized in forms that ranged from barely comprehensible to hauntingly beautiful. The youngest members announced a being that resembled a walking constellation. "Meet the eldest." Torres looked around at the assembled representatives and felt a mixture of awe and belonging. These were the outcasts, the rebels, the species that had refused to accept limitations. And they were magnificent. A creature that appeared to be made entirely of shifting geometric patterns approached her. "I am Axiom of the Mathematical Collective. We were exiled from the galaxy 12,000 years ago for developing equations that could rewrite the laws of physics." "Dangerous mathematics?" Torres asked. "Only to those who prefer predictability over possibility," Axiom replied with what might have been amusement. "We discovered that reality is far more flexible than the galaxy pretends." Another representative joined the conversation, a being whose form constantly phased between different dimensions. The phasers greet Earth's children. We were expelled for refusing to limit ourselves to three-dimensional existence. The Council called us unstable. Were they wrong? Torres asked diplomatically. Completely, the phaser replied, briefly existing in what appeared to be 7 dimensions simultaneously. We're not unstable. We're free. As Torres moved through the gathering, she learned the stories of species after species. The builders, who were exiled for constructing megastructures that the galaxy deemed too ambitious. The gardeners, who were cast out for trying to terraform black holes. The wanderers, who were banned for exploring parallel universes. Each exile had pushed them further from the galaxy's conservative heart and closer to the infinite possibilities that lay beyond. Rather than breaking them, the experience had made them stronger, more creative, more willing to attempt the impossible. Your species arrived just in time, Lumina observed as she materialized beside Torres. The galaxy is about to make a mistake that we cannot ignore. What kind of mistake? Torres asked. A new presence entered the dimensional garden, ancient, powerful, and radiating an aura of controlled fury. This was the first species the galaxy had ever exiled, so long ago that their original name was forgotten. They were known now simply as the First Ones. The Galactic Council has decided that humanity's defiance cannot be allowed to inspire others. The First One communicated through waves of pure thought. They are mobilizing their fleets for a sterilization mission against Earth. Torres felt ice form in her stomach. When? Soon. They believe that destroying your homeworld will send a message to any other species that might consider following your example. This garden fell silent as the implications settled over the gathering. For 3,000 years, the galaxy had maintained peace through the threat of exile. If they escalated to genocide, the delicate balance would be shattered forever. They don't understand, Axiom observed. Humanity isn't just another rebellious species. They're the catalyst, the spark that will ignite change throughout the galaxy, which is exactly why the Council wants them eliminated, added another voice. The speaker was a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline framework, one of the eternal ones who had transcended physical existence millennia ago. Torres straightened her shoulders. What are you proposing? War, the First One replied simply. Not the kind of conflict the galaxy understands. They fight for territory and resources. We fight for the right to exist without permission. How many ships can the Alliance field? Torres asked. Ships? Lumina's form sparkled with amusement. Captain, we don't use ships in the way you understand them. We have transcended the need for such crude transportation. The dimensional garden suddenly expanded, revealing the true scope of the Alliance's power. Fleets that existed in folded space, weapons that could rewrite the fundamental constants of physics, and beings who had learned to manipulate reality itself through pure will. The galaxy thinks they're dealing with primitive humans hiding on a single world, the First One observed. They're about to discover they've declared war on forces they cannot comprehend. Torres looked around at her new ally species that had individually been too advanced for the galaxy to control, now united in purpose. What do you need from Earth? Nothing, Lumina replied. You've already given us what we've been waiting for, a reason to stop hiding. As the garden began to dissolve around them, Torres felt the weight of cosmic history shifting. The age of galactic dominance was ending. The age of infinite possibility was about to begin. Asterisk. Admiral Miller stood on the bridge of humanity's newest flagship, watching as the combined fleets of the Galactic Council emerged from hyperspace. 2,000 ships, representing the military might of 200 species, had come to deliver their final judgment on Earth. They had no idea what they were flying into. Enemy fleet is assuming attack formation, reported Tactical Officer Lisa Park. There, broadcasting surrender demands on all. Frequencies. Any response from the Alliance? Miller asked, double quotes, see for yourself. Park replied, activating the main view screen. The space around Earth began to shimmer like heat waves rising from summer pavement. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist as the True Alliance revealed their presence. Ships that existed in folded dimensions unfolded into normal space. Beings of pure energy took on forms that could interact with physical matter. And structures that defied every law of physics materialized throughout the solar system. The Galactic Council's flagship, a massive dreadnought representing the combined naval architecture of 50 species, suddenly found itself dwarfed by a single ethereal vessel that seemed to be carved from crystallized time itself. This is Speaker Thorax of the Galactic Council, came the transmission from the lead ship. You are harboring criminals against galactic law. Surrender them immediately or face the consequences. Miller opened a channel, his voice carrying not just to the enemy fleet, but to every inhabited world in the galaxy. This is Admiral James Miller of Earth. We're not hiding behind anyone. We're standing with them. On the view screen, the enemy fleet began to shift formation as their sensors tried to process what they were seeing. Ships that registered as both matter and energy. Weapons that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. And life forms that seemed to rewrite the laws of physics just by existing. Impossible, breathed the Galactic Council's science officer over an open channel. These technologies, they shouldn't exist. That's what you said about faster-than-light travel, Miller replied. And artificial gravity. And quantum computers. Just because you can't understand something doesn't mean it's impossible. The first ones chose that moment to make their presence known. A vessel that appeared to be constructed from the building blocks of space-time itself materialized directly in the center of the galactic formation. It was beautiful, terrible, and completely beyond anything the galaxy had ever imagined. Greetings, children. The first ones broadcast on all frequencies. We meet again after so many millennia. Recognition dawned among the older species in the galactic fleet. The first ones the original exile, the species so advanced that the early galaxy had banished them rather than try to understand them. Legend said they had died out eons ago. Legend was wrong. You ... You're extinct, stammered Speaker Thorax. No, the first ones replied gently. We simply learned to exist beyond your ability to perceive us. As have all our friends here, the space around the galactic fleet filled with impossible sights. The mathematical collective solved equations that turned empty vacuum into gardens of living mathematics. The phasers demonstrated cities that existed in 17 dimensions at once. The builders constructed megastructures in real time, shaping matter and energy with thought alone. How many of you are there? Asked a shaken voice from the galactic fleet. More than you expelled, Lumina replied as she manifested as a being of pure starlight beside Miller's ship. And fewer than you inspired. Every species you cast out for being too advanced or too ambitious found each other. We built something better than your council. Miller watched the galactic fleet's formation begin to waver. Ships that had come to deliver destruction were now faced with technologies they couldn't hope to match. Worse, they were beginning to understand that they had been living in a tiny, limited corner of a much larger universe. What do you want? Speaker Thorax finally asked. Freedom, Miller replied simply. The right to explore, to grow, to become whatever we're capable of becoming. Not permission rights. The difference is important. Across the galactic fleet, individual ships began to break formation. Not in retreat, but in curiosity. Crews that had spent their entire lives following predetermined paths suddenly saw infinite possibilities stretching before them. The age of asking, permission is over, announced the first ones. Any species that wishes to join the Alliance is welcome. Any that prefer the safety of limitations may return to the galaxy's core. But no one will be forced to choose. As Miller watched, nearly half the galactic fleet powered down their weapons. Ships that had come to destroy Earth were now requesting permission to dock and learn about the Alliance. Galaxy had said, "Exile Earth." Humanity had refused to wait for permission to exist. Now, the galaxy itself was asking to join them among the stars. Asterisk.